Welcome to the Clear Perspective podcast. My name is Alison Lacusier, your host. In this podcast, we will be exploring the future of dentistry, not just from the perspective of patients, but also with a focus on well-being, performance, and mental health of dental professionals. As dental professionals, we know that providing exceptional care to our patients requires more than just technical skill. It also requires emotional intelligence, empathy, and a commitment to our own health and well-being. That is why in this podcast, we'll be discussing strategies for managing stress, preventing burnout, and cultivating resilience so that you can continue to perform at your best and provide top quality care to your patients. We're also going to be chatting with leading experts in the field of dentistry who will share their insights and experiences on how to navigate the challenges of being a dental professional, including the impact of technology and the evolving healthcare landscape. So whether you're looking to improve your own well-being and performance, or simply interested in the future of dentistry and how it will impact dental professionals, this podcast is for you. Thank you for joining me on this journey to gain a clear perspective on the exciting developments in dentistry today. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday, or Toothsday, that I like to say in my dental nerd way. Welcome to the Clear Perspective. This is Alison Lacusier here, and I am joined with my amazing guest, Regena, today. Welcome to the Clear Perspective, Regena. It's so good to have you here.
Hi, Allison. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are talking about something that I think every single human being in the entire universe could benefit from, but especially in our dental industry. This is a topic that I was so looking forward after meeting you at Smiles at Sea is where we first met. I got to be your judge as you were on Dentistry's Got Talent. You crushed it, by the way. I loved your presentation. I knew immediately we needed to get you on the podcast so we could talk about this to a broader audience. So what we're going to be talking about today is inner peace. We're going to be talking about how to get inner peace. And I'm going to introduce you to Regena because she is an expert in this. So Regena specializes in helping her students and clients get unstuck and move through fear, supporting them in living more purposefully and passionately, whether it's on the mat, in a private session, in a classroom, or out in the field showing property. Regena is committed to helping conscious men, women, and families achieve the results they wish to acquire. She enjoys collaborating and working with companies that support the same vision and mission. And her mission is to help others reclaim their inner peace in all circumstances, which I love. I love that it's in all circumstances, especially because in dentistry, we have so many circumstances. So she is the founder of the Inner Peace Revolution Journey, an expansive journey into inner peace with a simple step-by-step process, helping support people's transformation and return to inner peace consistently and effectively, no matter what's happening around them. She's a published author and an amazing professional speaker, and she loves helping others feel good and creating more peace in the world. So officially, welcome to the Clear Perspective.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to kick us off with our very first question, which is, how did you start doing this work? Tell me your story.
Well, it's funny. I feel like I still do the work every day. The universe likes to test and just make sure I'm paying attention. So I started this work officially, I feel like, it was 2019. I started my company in 2017, but I really feel like I really got what I was 2019. And it was a breakup, actually. I was engaged and my ex meant that we were going to consciously uncouple. And so we did, and everything was great. And I felt like we were on the same page and we were, kind of agreeing to keep things simple. And we weren't going to like publicize it or anything. We were just going to, keep it chill. And I was going to a retreat that weekend. And I remember I was on my way to the retreat and I promised myself I was going to turn my phone off. And something gnawed at me on the second night and kept saying, go online, go online. And I was like, no, I don't want to go online. Like, I want to stay offline. That was my commitment to myself. And so I kept getting the nudge, and I finally went online and I saw something that he had posted that felt like a total gut punch. And I was just like, wow, like this was after we made an agreement and it was still broken. And my first instinct was to do what I always do, which was to used to do, which was to react and to either communicate with him or, get upset or whatever. But I was in the middle of the woods. And so even if I did that, I was like, then what? like I can go have a conversation with him, And I thought, you know what, this is such a great opportunity. Like, what is it that I really, really, really want out of this weekend? And I remembered the intention that I set, which I shared with him out loud before I got there. And it was to have peace, internal peace. And I'm so grateful to him because he helped me in a lot of ways. And one of those was helping me start to do this work and actually communicate with the world what my mission was, and it's inner peace. And so there he was yet again in a different way, energetically supporting me. And that was the first night that I realized, like, no matter what happens, we get to choose. Mm-hmm. And just 6 months or maybe 9 months before that, my dad had a brain tumor removed from his head, and that was traumatizing. And still dealing with the aftermath of that 4 years later. My mom had cancer twice, family stuff. We all go through things. And so it just reminded me that life is so fragile. And whether it's somebody cutting us off in traffic and giving us the middle finger, or it's a dentist that, just got a new bill, or a patient that is not feeling well, or a kid that's sick, right? There's always going to be something that's going to try to steal our peace away.
Yeah.
And so I just say, as much as possible, choose peace. Mm-hmm. And it's a mantra that I have, that I tell myself, I tell my students, my clients, is choose peace, because you can choose. And it's not always easy, but there is a choice.
I love this so much. Oh my gosh. And it's like, it is 100% true. Like, I think we all, I think once you get to a certain age, and it happens, unfortunately, some people have this experience younger than others, but we all get to a point where we realize, like, life is going to life. There are going to be things in our life that we don't get to control, that we don't get to decide, that sometimes they feel like they're happening to us. And yet, if we can know and understand and acknowledge and really master the thought process that we always get to decide, even in the worst scenarios, even in the most unfair things, like, we still get to decide, knowing that will keep our power. Really, it allows us to feel less of a victim and more of somebody that's at choice no matter what. And so I think that's such a beautiful example, because I think we can all agree that if something's happening in your life relationally, like if it's with your spouse, your significant other, somebody you're dating, if that's not going well, the rest of your life doesn't feel great. Like, it's really hard to separate the two. And as much as we want to say, no, we're focused and committed professionals and we can get through these things, relationships are the one thing that can take us down by the knees. And I think we can all agree that it's so hard to overcome that. And so being able to find that beautiful peace and that power within that difficult situation, I can imagine just allows you to be so much stronger with everything else that you're doing. So let me ask you this. What is your number one? I know you have systems, you have a process, you have so many tools in your toolkit. And I learned this at Smiles at Sea, but what would you say is your number one tip for helping people find the inner peace?
I think it's making a choice, making a decision. We're not going to be led by our fears. We're not going to be led by our circumstance. And sometimes that's not as easy as just snapping the fingers and taking a breath. And, sometimes we need to ask our friends, ask our coaches, ask our peers. And that's why I love accountability. And personally, I think that's been one of the biggest tools that's helped support me, is getting people around me like yourself, right? It's people around me that help me rise higher and remind me that I don't need to be stuck in the muck. Mm-hmm. And like you said, I love what you said. Life is life, right? Life is going to life. So that's, it's a perpetual joke. It's like, what's the meaning of life? Whatever meaning you give it.
Yeah.
So if you think life sucks and life is hard, it's going to suck and it's going to be hard. It's going to show you more of that. And there's no shortage of crap that can show up in our lives, and it's really a humbling process, like you said, when we can just give grace to the things that matter. And that's why I personally feel like relationships, I agree with you, are one of the most amazing, but also one of the most challenging things on the planet is other people.
Yeah.
And I'm a junkie when it comes to relationships. Like I love learning about relationships. I love learning about being a better version of me. And how I've become a better version of me is by screwing up so many times and making so many mistakes and hitting my head against the wall and saying, oh, don't do that again. Like, oh, try it this way. And so peace isn't always warm and fuzzy. It's not always, peace is not always peaceful. Peace sometimes is really, it's a fine line between, and I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but it's a fine line between apathy and empathy, right? For ourselves and for everyone around us. It's like, you care enough to not care. Because you have to at some point disconnect from the stress and from the attachment and the pain and the struggle, and just be like, you know what? I don't want to struggle anymore. Like disconnecting from the relationship with stress takes something, and just saying like, I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm not going to keep sticking myself in these crazy situations that cause me pain and suffering. Like, why am I doing that?
100%. And I think like for the, the audience that watches this, like many of them are very high performers. They're dentists, they're coaches, they're entrepreneurs. And like you said, taking responsibility for yourself and wanting to improve yourself, we sometimes think that we have to like dig in so hard and like focus on solving all of these things so critically and, being that best version of ourselves. But sometimes the best version of ourselves means that we bring levity into the situation, or we, allow ourselves not to be thinking about these things for hours at a time, playing them over in our minds again and again. It's like this realization that we don't have to take ourselves or situations that seriously, even if they're really not great situations. Like, how do we find joy in what's happening? How do we find meaning, purpose? But how do we not get so into how do we solve and fix this and make ourselves this perfect person to deal with this stress? And so I absolutely love that you say that, because this has been something in my personal life too. I'm a junkie when it comes to learning and coaching and brain and all of those things, which makes me a great coach. And yet at the same time, the more I can learn to disconnect from the things and see them as joyful or funny or humorous or not that serious, the better I am to move forward with them. So it's so important. What would you say is like the biggest myth that you can bust about inner peace? Like what would you say is like the thing when you're talking to people and you're like, actually, let me tell you what that myth is?
I would say that it's A, that it's easy, and B, that I lived on an ashram, which for those that don't know, it's a spiritual community, and you live not a monk life, but kind of, it's like as close to a monk as possible, modern day. And what I realized living there was that a lot of times people create this image or this fantasy that peace is like this euphoria, that you go away and you live somewhere in the mountains or in the beautiful paradise of wherever, and there's going to be bugs there, or there's going to be mosquitoes, or there's going to be no people, or there's going to be no water. Like there's always going to be something to test our inner peace and to test our faith. And so that's what I got there. And I'm always reminded when I'm hanging out with my yogi friends or my yogi people that everybody has problems and we can't escape them. We can only get better. And that's really, for me, that's been the biggest lesson, is that inner peace it is a choice. Like every time I get upset, and I did recently, a couple of days ago, I got really upset about something. And I was like, again, like, why am I still getting triggered by this? And then I was like, oh, because I haven't chosen yet. And so it was like laughing at myself, like, you get to choose, you don't have to make this, like you said, you don't have to obsess about it. And the more that we can live in a state of joy and bliss and peace, I think that's really the most important. And and I really appreciate you, for showing up today. And we don't know what's going on in other people's lives. And I find that sometimes my own monkey mind starts going off about all the things that should be different.
Mhm.
And then I realize, like, when I just show up in the flow and as best as I can being myself, things always work out.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to try to figure it out because it's already figured out. I just show up.
100%.
And, just I think it's part of the challenge for most people is like, we don't mean to, but our conditioning is that we're not supposed to be happy.
Mm.
We're supposed to push. And I think with dentists too, like you said, high performers, like there's this like void that there's to go.
Mhm.
And my invitation to us is to just like breathe into, like, can we just be? Can we be happy with what we have, with who we are? And my goal, for whatever it's worth in the dental space, I feel so honored that I get to even be in the dental space because it wasn't part of my growing up. I feel really lucky that I can offer these tools to dentists and to dental professionals, because I do feel the dental space is such an important industry, and it really deserves a level of care and wellness that is accessible. It's just hard for people sometimes to access it because they don't know. So that's my goal, is to provide these tools in dentist office, in dental practices, teach them, these are very easy to do. You can do Reiki circles at the office,
Mhm.
yoga classes with your patients, have a wellness center that is more than just people coming in and getting their teeth cleaned.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like, being in part of the marketing world and dentistry, we're seeing the data that supports that patients want things to be faster, easier, and safer. And they want things to be more holistic, and they want to really honor like their own well-being. And this is something that I talk about all the time in my coaching. It's like, how do we take best care of our patients if we don't take best care of ourselves? And I mean, I ask myself this all the time as a coach: how do I best take care of my clients if I'm not taking best care of myself? And it keeps me honest about what my habits are, what I'm spending my time doing, because that in itself, the care that you have for yourself, the like holistic approach to your own well-being and honoring your stress, your needs, where you are, is going to be the way that we take better care of other people, period. Like, that is the only way to do this. And I know you see this a lot in the dental industry, but a lot of the people that I coach, a lot of people that I work with, they're burning themselves so hard to take care of others. And there's this perception or this like thought that like, well, it's selfish if I'm not. And I always like to push back on that belief, because it's selfish if you're not taking care of yourself, because that means that you won't last in taking care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. And so your work is so critical to this industry that is so high stress, so high demand. And I think the more that we're talking about this and the more that we're sharing what's possible with your own well-being, the more impact we're going to make on practices and this whole industry, and then our patients as well, which is the reason why everyone got into dentistry, is to take care of people. So I absolutely love this. I think what you're doing is so, so needed and so important. And so I want to wrap up with asking you, in your zone of genius, like with the, purpose and passion and mission that you have in this world and the work that you're doing, what would be your true measure of success? If like at the end of the day, all is said and done and you're like, I did it, I achieved my measure of success, what would that be for you?
I love that question. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes I ask myself, what is my biggest fear? And my biggest fear is not living up to my full potential.
Mm.
And so I think that question reminds me of that, because, even the thought full, maybe full is full, right? It's a full, even thought for one to, there's no such thing as full potential, because as soon as you hit it, there's another tier, another level. So I think for me, it's knowing that I'm waking up every day and I'm doing the best I can and I'm moving forward in my life. And there are days when I don't feel that way. There are days when I feel like I'm 1,000 steps away from where I need to be. And for whoever's watching or listening, if this could be of value, I think the process of becoming who we know we can be is part of letting go of what we're not. It's like Michelangelo, someone reminded me the other day, it wasn't about what he created. He simply chipped away what wasn't. And so that's really, for me, that's been my greatest measure of success, is like, am I better than I was yesterday?
I love that so much. I love that so much, because in life, it feels like adding to us, or like building us is what we need to do. But the reality is, it's just like stripping away the things that aren't real, or they're not true, or they're not like right for us to expose and to uncover like the true gifts of who we are. And it's the whole like kind of message around that is like inherent worthiness, like inherent goodness, inherent talent. It's all there for us. We just get to uncover it over the course of our life. So, oh, so good. So juicy. This is my favorite conversation. This is why when we met in Smiles with You, I was like, get on my podcast. We need to talk. It's amazing. How can people find you? And I know that you have a quiz. Tell me a little bit more about that and where people can find you. And I'll put it into the chat.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. So the quiz is, it's free. And it's basically just a little quiz that my team and I made to help people relieve their stress. And it's literally relieveyourstressnow.com. And by going on there, there's like, I think 10 questions that it takes you through, and it asks you questions about your stress level. So you can really identify what is it that's stressing you out. And there's some really simple but customized tools in there that can help people feel better. And, I do have an 8-week program that supports people in having more support and more tools that they can really activate these practices. So if anyone's curious or wants to know more, I'm actually working on getting them into dental offices and spaces. So I'd love to speak with anyone that this resonates with.
I love this. I love it. So I just put that in the chat. So definitely go and reach out, relieveyourstressnow.com. And also just know that if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, feel stressed or feel alone, you're not. We're here for you. There's a lot of, especially I would say this time of year, a lot of stress that happens. And for anyone that's like watching or listening, or if you know anybody that needs some support, just know that you're not alone. You don't have to deal with your stress on your own, and peace is so possible for you. So Regena, thank you so much for being on The Clear Perspective. I just want to acknowledge you for all the work that you're doing, for sharing your light, sharing your wisdom in such a powerful way. When I first heard you speak at the at Dentistry's Got Talent, like I know that you're such a force to be able to make big shifts and big changes in our industry and in others. So thank you for doing what you do. And it was such a pleasure having you on the Clear Perspective podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was fun. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.